Today we're working on Nina from Suzuki Book 5 for viola. Welcome. Welcome to the studio. My name is Cassie and I'm a professional violist and teaching artist. Today we're working on the third song from Suzuki Book 5 titled Nina. We're going to do a tutorial and then an at-tempo playthrough because this is a slow piece. If you want to skip right to the slow playthrough, I do post the timestamps in the comments below, so check those out. So grab a pencil, we're going to get started with our tutorial first. This piece is in G minor, so I'd like to warm up with the G minor scale and just talk through a little bit about what G minor actually is. So we've been playing a lot of pieces in major. Minor is just the sad sounding version of that. So we're going to warm up starting on open G, and I'll name the notes as we play them. So it's open G first, then A, low 2, B flat, third finger C, open D, regular 1 E natural, high 2 F sharp, and then third finger G. So the version that we just played is an ascending melodic minor scale. This form, this minor scale has two different forms. So the ascending version is kind of just like major, but the third note is lowered. So instead of it being B natural, it's B flat. The descending version, or the going down version, is also known as natural minor, and that's what follows the key signature. So if you look at the piece, we have a B flat and an E flat here. So we're going to do the descending version now, and the only accidentals that we have are B flat and E flat. So let's start with that third finger G, and that's low 2, low 1, open, C, low 2, B, A, open G. So if I look ahead in my piece, I see that ascending version in measure 27. It also occurs later on in measure 43. So we're going to be using that version a couple times in this piece. I want to do the 2-octave version of that to warm up. So we're going to shift after I play 2 on the D string, and I'll call out that shift. So let's start an open G. Low 2. Regular 1. F sharp. Shift. High 2. Low 3. 4. Cross to the A string. High 2. High 3. 4. Back down. Low 3. Low 2. Cross to 4. Low 3. Shift back down to low 2. Low 1. Low 2. So now that we're warmed up in the key of the piece, we're going to do a tutorial. We're going to talk through each measure. So right off the bat, I'm starting in first position, but I've got to shift to third position after the pickup notes. So I'm going to start with my open and low 2, and then I'm going to shift to third position. Now when I do that shift, I want it to be a clean shift, so I don't want to hear all the notes kind of in between there. So I'm going to use my bow to help hide that shift. So watch what I do. I'm going to start, keep my bow moving, so I don't want a complete stop, because that doesn't make it for a very beautiful connected legato line. So let's try that. We're going to use our bow. Our bow's going to keep moving as we do that shift, and I'm going to make sure that my shift matches the tempo that I'm going in. I don't want to shift too fast or too slow. Okay, let's do that a couple times just so we get used to doing it. Shift. If you're going too fast, this might happen. And you overshoot it, and if you're going too slow, it's kind of like you're sliding into home plate. We're not quite reaching the note on time. So you can stop the video if you need to and practice that. We're going to continue on right now from the beginning. Low 3. Now stay at the tip. This is like an echo. Shift in that rest to first position. Now Again, using that rest to shift back to third position. This one's a little bit more difficult because we've just played an open string and I kind of need to find where that 2 goes out of the blue. So the trick for that is I'm going to play that open D, shift to third position on the D string, and then plop my 2 over on the G string. So we're going to practice that. We're going to sound it. So play your open D, shift to G, and then plop your 2. And those should match. So your open D and your second finger D should match pitch. Let's try that one more time. Play your open G, shift up to third position, cross over with your 2. Good, and again, you might need to stop the video and practice that, but we're going to continue on. So I'm going to go right from that 2, which is the last note of the first line. Now they've got a 2 indicated here, which means I'm going to replace my 1 with my second finger, effectively bringing myself to second position. So find that 1 again, and then shift back down with your 1, and plop your 2 where your 1 just was. And again, you might need to stop the video and practice that a few times. But let's continue on. We're starting right in measure 5. Shift to 2. Shift back up to third position, and stay in third position. So in measure 6, where we just practiced that shift, 1, 1. That's a half step shift, and it should feel like your finger is clicking from second position to third position. Now they're only a half step away, so it's not a very big shift, but it's gonna bring you back to third position, which is a good thing, because we need to reach that 4. If I stay in second position, I can't do that. 1, 1. Again, use your 1 to shift back down to first position and plop your 3. Shift to third, and it's a half step across the string. So this piece has a lot of shifts in it. If you're not comfortable with shifting, or if you're a little bit more new to shifting, I did do a tutorial on shifting. I'll post that in the comments below and also link it above. You might need to go and check that out before you proceed with this piece, because there are a lot of shifts in it. All right, we just made it to measure 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got a treble clef here. If you're not familiar with treble clef or how to convert it from alto clef, post in the comments and I'll email you a sheet that I have that shows you what it looks like in alto clef and what it looks like in treble clef, so that you can get more comfortable with that. We're going to continue on. This is the same exact phrase as we had in the beginning. It's just an octave up. So I'm starting in third position. It's 1, low 3, then cross to the A string with 1, low 2, stay at the tip, plop 4, again use your 1 to shift back to first position, plop 3, crescendo, more bow, shift to third position, low 3, low 2, cross over to the D string with your 4, 4, low 3, extend up for that harmonic, back to first position. So we just passed a harmonic in measure 15. If you're not sure how to do those, your finger's going to barely touch the string and you can only have 1 finger down. So you're going to extend your 4th finger like this, and you can only have your 4 down. So if your other fingers are touching, it's not going to work. So let's try that. We're going to go from the triplet, which is an up bow, and I'm going to do low 3, extend, lift my other fingers off, and this is where my palm touches the instrument. That's usually where I'm going to find my harmonic. You might need to go fishing around for it. Everybody's is in kind of slightly a different place, but it technically should be 50% between where the bridge is and where the nut is. That's where your octave harmonic is. So fishing around for it sounds a little bit like this. And you want the one that kind of sounds like a whistle. You know you've found it when it starts to have that really reverberant sound. So I'm going to start on that triplet again. Back to first position. Good, we're still in treble clef here, and we've got forte with an accent. So I'm going to use bow speed and arm weight to achieve that accent. Shift up here to second position. So my shift is B flat to C. Then then I'm going to plop that 4. Now what the book suggests is that you shift up to 3rd position and then you reach back to 2nd position for the low F. I'm just going to advocate that you go to 2nd position instead so you have less shifting to worry about. So let's try that again. We're going to go from the forte, shift up to 2nd position, plop 4. Now we're shifting to 3rd position, 4, 3, 2. Now stay at the tip, this is the echo. Right, in measure 21, we've got lines over those notes and there's a slur. This bowing is called portato, and essentially what I'm doing is I'm pulsing with my pointer finger to create a little bit of space in between each note. So let's try that right at 21. I'm starting on low 3 on the A string, and it's pulse, pulse, pulse. So we don't want a smooth legato, and we also don't want a complete stop like a staccato. It's kind of somewhere in between there. So again, it's just a gentle pulse with your pointer finger, and it's going to feel a little bit like you're turning a doorknob, very gently though. In the next measure, we've got a tiny little grace note printed, and that's going to happen right before the beat. So if I start in 21 on that low 3, the beat is the E flat. So the grace note will come right before that. And we have a few grace notes continuing on in the piece. You're going to do the same thing for those as well. All right, in measure 22, I just finished that grace note slur. We've got a shift back to 1st position, and this is the same material that we saw in measure 13. It's an exact repeat. Crescendo, shift, cross, extend for that harmonic. Great, I'm going to use that rest to shift back up to 3rd position for this next phrase, and this is that G melodic ascending scale that we just played. Low 3, high 3. Stay in 3rd position. Good, I'm going to shift back down to 1st position, plop a low 4 on the A string. We've got more grace notes here. So if I didn't have the grace notes there, it would sound. All right, continuing on, we're back in alto clef in safety. Now the book advocates that you do this in 1st position, but I think it works better in 2nd position so I can vibrate the D very well. So it's your choice. You can choose whichever one works best for you, but I'm going to start it in 2nd position. Shift up here to 3rd position. Good, let's try that one more time. Use your 1 to shift, plop your 4, cross your 1. Okay, back to 1st position on the D string here. Stay at the tip. Then we've got that portato. So this piece is kind of constructed of 3 different phrases, and you'll notice that we state a new phrase or a new section in 1 octave, and then it'll repeat in a different octave. So sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower. The part that we just got to in measure 31, 32, 33 is the same thing that we had in measure 17, it's just down the octave. So I'm going to continue on in measure 37. We've got that portato. Now shift again to 3rd position. Then we're going to change to 2nd position, so that's that finger replacement we did back on the 1st page. Shift to 3rd position with your 1. Back to 1st position. 3rd position. Good, now this is that similar statement of a phrase that we've had before. This is the C phrase. We have an A phrase, a B phrase, and a C phrase. And this is the same scale that we saw in measure 27, just down the octave. So I'm going to go for my open G, low 2, high 2. right, back to treble clef. This is the same thing that we saw in measure 29. So it's 1, low 3, high 3. First position, low 4. Shift to third position. Then it's 4, back to low 1, first position. Fermata, third position. Now the last two measures we have printed underneath a piacere, which is Italian for at your pleasure, or however you would like to play it. So the rhythms are kind of a suggestion here. After we do that fermata, I can go really slow. And doing a accelerando, I can just keep it all the same. Whatever you'd like there, go crazy. That's kind of a little bit of a cadential or a cadenza moment. So I'm starting right on that fermata again. Shift to third, low 2, and then you can either do 1 in third position and hop your 1 to finish it off, or what they're suggesting is that you extend up to do that harmonic again. So after you do the grace notes, which is an up bow or down bow, extend up for that harmonic and then reach back with a 1 to finish off the piece. In this piece, there are a lot of shifts. There's a lot of bow distribution stuff. So I'm going to go back to the very beginning and we'll talk through some of that in just a second. We did talk about the grace notes. We talked about the harmonics. So there's a lot of stuff in this piece that may be new to you. So one thing I do want to go back and talk about is the bow distribution stuff. This is really going to help us shape our phrase in addition to vibrato. So starting right at the beginning, it's piano. I don't want to start at the frog. I want to start kind of in the upper half because I don't need a lot of bow. It's just 1 beat worth of pickup stuff. I'm going to use less, more, most to shape that phrase. Now I know there's not a crescendo printed there, but if I play all of those notes the same, it gets a little bit boring. So I'm using the length of my bow to help create a little bit of interest in the phrase. Let's try that one more time. So it's small bow to start. More, most. Now we're going to echo, stay at the tip. Shift. Stay in the upper half. Same idea here. More, most. Stay in the upper half. To finish the phrase off. Now when we do have that, the measure that's got the 4 quarter notes like we had in the very first measure, we have the same thing in measure 5 and they do print a crescendo diminuendo there. So we want to create that with the length of our bow. When we see that similar phrase repeat, we're going to do the same thing again. We're always starting out with less bow and then growing the phrase using a little bit more bow each time we have the subsequent quarter note. When I have something that has rhythmic interest, like in measure 6, we've got that 8th note, triplet, followed by 8th note. We're going to use a little bit more bow because it gets a little bit more interesting with the rhythm. So within this, we're starting at, let's say our dynamic at the beginning was piano. Maybe we've reached mezzo forte-ish here. We're going to start out with a lot of bow on that downbeat. And make sure not to use too much bow in the second half of the measure because there is a diminuendo printed there. So it's a lot. Save, 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 shift. Continuing on, it's the same phrase as the beginning, so we're going to do the same bow distribution. So it's a little bit of bow. More, most. Stay in the upper half. And I've got that same idea, less, more, most. So you can see how the bow distribution can help us shape the phrase. I didn't talk about vibrato. I did make a video on it if that's something that's new to you, and I'll also post that in the comments below. But I hope that I touched on most of the things that are either new or interesting in this piece. We are going to do our playthrough if you're ready for it, so I'll see you in a sec. All right, we are ready for our at tempo playthrough. This is a slow piece, so we're just gonna do a one, not a slow and a fast playthrough. So if you're ready, let's do it. I'll count to 3 and we'll begin. 1, 2, 3. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really hope that you found this video useful. If there's anything that I didn't cover that you're still wondering about, post it in the comments below so the rest of the community can benefit from your question as well. As always, thank you for joining me and happy practicing.